Today on CityCast DC, there is more worry about the future of downtown DC. Plus, snow. Remember that? It snowed. And it might snow again. And people in the city have thoughts about how we handled it. I'm here with Julia Karen and Dan Reed. And we're also talking about the joy of pocket parks and how there's a new one on the horizon. Today is Friday, January 19th. I'm Michael Schaefer, and here's what DC is talking about. Hey, guys.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, how are you?
So, it's a season of worry about downtown DC. I mean, going back to the pandemic, vastly accelerated by the announcement that the Wizards and Capitals want out of the downtown arena. And the latest piece of bad news is that Fannie Mae, the mortgage giant, which had an enormous presence in this trophy property where the Washington Post used to be, has announced it's leaving. Like 5 years earlier, it wants out of its lease. You know, it's weird. On the one hand, it's Fannie Mae is an odd case. It's it's in conservatorship. It's not organization at the peak of its powers. But given everything, given there's like a 20% office vacancy rate, that people have just not come back to offices, that a lot of other downtown businesses and so on that rely on office workers have closed or felt stress, this is sort of being taken as yet another sign of ill health for downtown. And it's sort of a frightening ongoing conversation, you know?
So this is basically a death knell, is what they're saying.
I don't know if I agree with that. What do you think, Dan? This is sort of your world of interest. I mean, are you as blue as everyone else about the future of downtown?
No. I think it is natural for folks to feel a lot of growing pains. This is a time of like a lot of transitions happening, but I think there is a vision I can see out there for a downtown that looks a lot more like the downtowns of, say, like Philadelphia or like other big American cities where like people live downtown. And as a result, there's like stuff to do after 5 o'clock and there's people around and it like feels like a place all of the time, as opposed to the downtown we have, which, you know, in the before was really active only during the day and kind of died in the evenings. So I guess I'm not mourning the downtown that was.
We've talked about this on our podcast, this idea of converting office buildings to residential ones. It's much more complicated than a layperson would think. And in general, the mayor's announced intention to bring a bunch of residents back downtown. Do you actually, I've been kind of not especially bullish on that. Do you think it's actually more likely?
I think so. It is hard to convert office buildings for a lot of reasons. I guess the simplest way to answer is they're just configured differently than apartment buildings. So it's hard to do like a one for one. But that may not stop developers from demolishing some of the older office buildings from like the 50s and 60s and just building back an apartment building. Like you could do that and be a lot more straightforward. I think it is going to be a much more organic process than boosters may expect it to be. Like you can't force it.
One thing that I'm noticing, and this came out in the Washingtonian, is that DC is actually the number one city for adapted reuse of commercial buildings, which I think is like fascinating.
The other thing that's going on, and that I think people are rather scared about, is that commercial real estate provides a big chunk of the city's tax revenue, which pays for things like schools and cops and reasons why you might want to live someplace, if that is to say public safety, decent services. If in the meantime, during this transition, they take a huge hit in terms of things that support the quality of life, who's going to want to actually live in those nice converted buildings you're talking about?
Yeah, that's a real concern. And so, you know, it is a good thing, I think, if downtown has a more diverse like tax base from like lots of different things. In the long term, I think it will make everything a lot healthier, but doesn't guarantee a smooth ride getting there.
The other thing is that the gripe, right or wrong, the gripe by Ted Leonsis, the owner of the Wizards and Capitals, about the current arena in Chinatown involves a lot of complaints about quality of life stuff. I have a feeling the actual move is a business reasons on the Virginia side, but that's been a complaint that a lot of people have recognized and seen as valid, that people are more uncomfortable coming down for games because of petty crime, not so petty crime, chaos, drugs, etc. With like downtown kind of in the balance, or so it's said. Also worth pointing out, the activist group Don't Mute DC. Mute is an interesting word in this case because one of Ted Leonsis' complaints was about noise and music.
Well,
But they staged a protest against the Virginia arena, which, with the idea, I don't think there was any particular critique of the Virginia arena, but it was that Virginia arena would come at the cost of this big driver for downtown Washington. I think a lot of people in DC are still hoping that essentially NIMBYism across the river is going to save downtown DC's bacon.
very unlikely allies in this fight to have the Caps and Wiz stay downtown. Yeah, I think it's obviously it remains to be seen like what happens. I think if Ted wants to move the teams, he's gonna move the teams. And I think in terms of downtown, like it's gonna have to be a shift. And the political leaders and the council are gonna have to figure out very, very quickly what they want downtown to be and lead on it and be like, all right, if we're converting all of these old commercial buildings as fast as we can into apartments, like they gotta put their foot down and kind of do it and not balk,
I don't know. Maybe I just lack the imagination.
I know.
The sort of downtown Washington, bedroom community.
I know.
Seems, I don't know. We'll see. Ask me when we get there, I guess.
Ask in 2029 when Fannie Mae moves out.
TIAA is on a mission. Why? Because 54% of Black Americans don't have enough savings to retire. So in collaboration with big-name artists like Wyclef Jean, TIAA released Paper Right, new music inspiring a new financial future. With 100% of streaming sales going to a nonprofit that teaches students how to invest. Stream Paper Right now and help close the gap.
So speaking of quality of life and things that people credit or blame mayors for.
Oh, God.
It snowed. And at least for me, who had to do a couple of errands, I found my ability to get around town super easy and convenient. My street was a tiny one-block street, which if I was ordering priorities and I didn't live there, it would be about the last street to plow. It was pretty clear very early. Granted, like this is that kind of participation trophy material because it was like a 3-inch snowstorm or something on Tuesday. But we're all like the blind man describing the elephant here, and other people had different experiences. But that was mine. What about you guys?
My street, also a little one-block street that I would assume would not get plowed first, was plowed like mid-morning on Tuesday and has been clear ever since. It was the sidewalks that were a problem for me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Sidewalks in my area were like completely frozen over. Basically what happened is like it snows, and then when the temperature drops to like below freezing, right, you get all the ice. I should have busted out my ice skates and just skated along the sidewalks to get to where I needed to go. My experience was definitely a little bit different. Like, so on Monday night, I went out for a birthday dinner and we had to drive, and obviously stuff wasn't plowed yet. And my thinking is, well, you know that this is coming. How have you not prepared to like either clear the roads or salt them or stuff like that? The bigger issue actually that people had was the airports, where I had a friend who was flying back from Boston and she stayed at Logan overnight because they couldn't get planes to land at DCA.
Wow.
Yeah. And like eventually she got back, but it was a cluster.
Wait, are you saying that somebody like dropped the ball there, or is this just like what happens when you try to fly in the winter, given what our airline safety rules are?
Ooh. This is a rant that I have about DC generally compared to most Northeast cities, which is most Northeast cities, when they know a snowstorm is coming, at airports, for the roads, stuff is ready to rock. Like they know what's coming. The streets get plowed basically within an hour. Stuff happens. In DC, there's this waiting game of like, how bad does it get? And then stuff gets deployed,
Once bitten, twice shy.
Right. You know? Isn't that a little weird?
It feels like a gradient. It's I think of like southern cities, like Atlanta a few years ago got like an inch of snow and things shut down for 24 hours and people were trapped in their cars.
Oh yeah. No, we're definitely not as bad as them, but there is like a sliding scale of like response times.
Also, on the thing of icy sidewalks, when you have a house that's on a corner, and the front of the house, they will go out and shovel their sidewalk like they're supposed to, but they forget about the part that's on the side that they never look at, that's on the other street.
That is my
that
next door
seems
neighbor.
Like that goes on a lot. Plus, like sidewalks in front of parks and institutions that might not be out there like Harry Homeowner every morning.
My other next door neighbor, like that was my yesterday, was yelling at the food pantry on the corner of my street and the park across the street from them to shovel their walks, which they did as of this morning.
The plus side is that kids got to experience a real snow day, like no Zoom school, no online classes. Mike, you have kids. Did they enjoy in their illustrious snow day? Yeah.
Absolutely. They found a sledding hill and everything.
Amazing.
In Montgomery County, kids got 2 snow days because they were off on Tuesday, and then the school system called 2-hour delay for Wednesday, and then at 7:40 Wednesday morning decided to cancel school. Like kids were on the school bus when they canceled school.
Guys, that's insane. This is like a county of 1 million people.
Yeah.
And one of the
bad.
biggest in the country. And the kids didn't go to school because it snowed for 3 inches.
I know.
That's part of it. Like the county is so big that even if my street was clear, there are places 25 miles away that they couldn't get the buses out of the lot or get the buses down streets. But the response time was so late, right? Normally if they're going to call school off, they would do it the night before or like very early in the morning. But like people had to change their plans like after breakfast in some cases on their way.
I was going to say, one of my favorite endearingly nerdy parts of Washington is the organized adult snowball fights that happen on snow days.
Oh, yeah. I love it. Like going down to the mall. Apparently there was the Battle of Snoppenheimer. We haven't had one since 2021. I know. Bad pun. We get it. But like, God, it is a favorite thing to just like go down there and huck snow at randos, and like everybody gets to be a little kid for just like even a couple of hours. It is a nice, refreshing thing about the city.
Albeit in a very organized type A Washington way.
Oh, for sure.
One of the news accounts I saw was talked about there's this giant adult snowball fight on the mall between the Air and Space Museum and the National Gallery. And I thought it literally was like a fight between like the curators of these 2 museums, but they actually just meant in the physical area between these 2 buildings.
That'd be perfect.
But I would have been much more excited. Like some places have after work softball leagues.
They have snowball fights.
Yeah. So, Dan, you are a great lover of I guess it's not a unique to Washington thing, but we have a lot of them here. These pocket parks,
little parks.
There's a proposal to build a new one in Union Market.
Yes. If you've been to Union Market, there is a little triangle land and sort of the backside, I think at the end of 4th Street Northeast, that one might look and say that's going to be a building. It is not. There is an effort from neighborhood residents to turn it into a little park. It's about 1 acre in size, which in terms of like pocket parks, like a big pocket, like those like Jinko jeans from like the 90s and 2000s, like big, those kind of pockets. But it's an opportunity to give one of DC's fastest growing neighborhoods where a lot of people have moved in the past couple of years, a place to go out and recreate.
I was kind of amazed by the price tag, given that it's just a little triangle.
$3.5 million? $3.5 million.
It could have been an apartment building. It's valuable land.
Sure.
So what do you get for your $3.5 million?
A very large triangle in which you could put maybe some green space, like a place for people to run around, like little kids and stuff, maybe a playground, maybe some benches and picnic tables, maybe a little dog park or a potty spot.
I mean, just to be clear, the $3.5 million is not as I understand it, is not the land, it's the cost to build.
Mm-hmm.
How can that stuff cost $3.5 million?
Landscaping is deceptively expensive, right? Like they have to prepare the land.
I've gone into the wrong industry.
To prepare the land, materials, plants are expensive, labor costs are very high. It's a constrained location, so it can't, it's going to be more complicated setting things up than it would be if it was just like out in the suburbs somewhere. You think about all the irrigation that you need for it, electricity for lighting. Like it is can be really complicated.
Do you have other spots I'm putting you on the spot, but in the DC or the DMV where you think it would actually be, there's something that could be turned into a park for people?
Oh man, I don't want to give people ideas because a park is a great, when people don't want something, they will usually ask for it to be turned into a park. And sometimes it's a good idea, and sometimes it is not in good faith.
So that's the way to get a park if you want one, is to get someone else to come in and propose like a tannery in the neighborhood.
Oh, yeah. Or an apartment building. That too. That's the other option, right? All comes back to NIMBYs being like, no, actually, we want a park.
Exactly. Or you can do like McMillan and demand that they turn it into a park when the plan was to actually turn part of it into a park, which they are now getting.
I think that between trying to gin up people in Alexandria to stop the arena and this, maybe the secret to getting what you want in a city is to weaponize NIMBYism.
Oh my God.
I continue to wish the Delray Citizens Association Godspeed in their efforts to keep the stadium in downtown DC.
Awesome. Well, Dan and Julia, awesome to see you guys.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. And that is all for today here on CityCast DC. Our senior executive producer is Priyanka Tilve. Our senior producer is Julia Karen. Our newsletter editor is Kayla Cote-Stemmerman. And our production assistant is Ash Durbin. Susanna Brown assisted with episodes this week. And our hosts are Bridget Todd and me, Michael Schaefer from Politico. Music is by Alex Roldan. If you enjoyed the show, why not shovel the name CityCast into the snow? At least around Julia's house, where apparently people don't clean up. Bye.